No matter how clear your vision is, how committed to your goals you are, and how much motivation you have, obstacles are inevitable. The sooner you get comfortable with that fact, the easier it's going to be. When you set out to make a change, you're essentially going against a lifetime worth of conditioning. You'll be faced with familiar excuses, habits, and distractions. And behind all these obstacles, there's a little voice that whispers in your ear, "You're not good enough. Why bother with all of this? It's not going to work anyway." This week, we're going to uncover the ways you've stopped yourself in the past, and we'll bring attention to that pesky voice, and finally, we'll learn how to overcome all these obstacles. The first step in overcoming obstacles is to become aware of them. When you're driving on an unfamiliar dark road at night, you turn on your high beams so you can see into the distance what kind of obstacles might be in your path. The better and further you can see, the more time you have to react. That's the first step this week, to turn your attention to potential obstacles that may be up ahead, so we'll have plenty of time to avoid them. So let's jump right in with excuses. Sometimes the best way to predict what might be up ahead is to look in the rearview mirror. The first things that come up to stop you will often be the same things that have stopped you in the past. So you'll have an opportunity to dig into this question in this week's journal. And although obstacles take on many forms and may be different from one person to the next, there are two or three that are common enough to quickly address. And that's not enough time and not enough energy. First, not enough time is an excuse. Come on, everyone has the same amount of time, so this is bogus. The truth is, you have competing commitments, things you've prioritized more than the thing you say you don't have time for. If you don't have enough time for your goals, you need to take a look at your priorities and organize your schedule to fit them in. The second is not enough energy. All right, fair enough. We only have so much energy and attention in any given day. Although I wish it were true, you can't do it all. If you don't have enough energy for your goals, you're likely overcommitted, and you need to let go of something and learn a better system and strategies to organize your life and get things done. Next, we all have mindless habits. What are yours? Eating fast food late at night, emotional shopping, having one too many on the weekend, sleeping in late. A habit is not a once-in-a-while indulgence. It's a repetitive pattern of behavior that's not in alignment with your goals. We've all got our vices, so you might as well own yours. Habits are often ran unconsciously, meaning you don't pause and consciously choose, "Oh, I'm going to go get out of bed and go down and have some chocolate." It just kind of happens, and then you realize later, "Oh, I did it again." And by that time, it's too late, and in comes the guilt. And the last of the big three obstacles is attention. Attention is the new greatest commodity. Advertisers pay millions of dollars just to get a moment of your attention. In our culture today, if you've got something to say, you better hook me in less than 5 seconds or I'm on to the next shiny thing. I like to say that technology has infinitely simplified and complicated our lives. There's so much competing for our attention that compared to life 60 years ago, most of our culture suffers from a mild form of ADD. Sticking to your rituals and action plan takes focused attention, and there's very little room for mindless distractions. As I mentioned at the beginning, identifying and planning ahead for these obstacles is key. By coming up with a strategy to overcome them before they happen, you'll exponentially increase the odds of reaching your goals. Research by Heidi Grant Halverson shows that having confidence in your ability to achieve goals makes a big difference in goal success. However, those in a weight loss study who were confident and realistic about potential obstacles lost 24 pounds on average more than those who were confident and thought it would be easy. Again, the sooner you can accept that living a life of optimal health is not necessarily easy, the easier it will be. So the solution, according to Halverson, is to think positively about the benefits of reaching your goals and also get clear on what might get in your way of achieving them. Halverson refers to this as mental contrasting, and she recommends that after we anticipate obstacles such as distractions, habits, and excuses, we create an if-then plan for each. Here are some examples. If it rains, then I'll run on the treadmill. If I have to travel for work, then I'll pack food and do a search for the nearest Whole Foods. If I get distracted by too much YouTube or Facebook, then I'll step away from the computer, take 3 deep breaths, and return to my project with focus. And finally, if I have a craving for chocolate, then I'll eat an apple. You'll have an opportunity to practice your own if-then planning in your journal. While there are obstacles like time, energy, logistics, scheduling conflicts, distractions, and acts of God such as flat tires and bad weather, most of our obstacles are internal. Another way to say this is often your greatest obstacle is yourself. We experience these internal obstacles as a negative thought in our head and a tension that is accompanied in our body. These thoughts take on a personality or a voice that seems to have but one job: to get in the way of your best self. This voice would like to talk you out of your vision and convince you that your goals are unattainable. If you listen to this voice over the voice of your best self, it will lead to ambivalence, low self-esteem, catastrophizing, shame, anxiety, worry, exhaustion. Not a list of qualities we'd associate with optimal health, that's for sure. So for ease of reference, we'll refer to this negative voice as the saboteur. The saboteur was first coined by Carl Jung, and since then has been called many different things. The popular self-help spiritual teacher Eckhart Tolle calls it the pain body. The popular EST or landmark education refers to this as your racket, and psychotherapist Rick Carson wrote a popular book calling it your gremlin. Recently, clinical neuroscientists, psychiatrists, and brain imaging expert Dr. Amen made up the name ANTS to stand for automatic negative thoughts. So why do we have ants in our head? We know there's a correlation to serotonin level and inflammation in the part of the brain called the basal ganglia, but science is not exactly sure if it's the chicken or the egg. Does the brain cause ants, or do ants cause stress in the brain? But what we do know is there is a mind-body connection at work here, and with a good combination of clean, healthy living, along with some cognitive interventions, we can minimize the ant infestations. The first step in getting rid of our ants is to start consciously identifying them from the other thoughts you have. Once identified, it helps to slap a label on it. Ah, there it is, there's my saboteur, gotcha. The act of identifying and labeling brings the thought from unconscious to conscious, or from subjective experience to something that's now objective and manageable. The more clear we can identify and label these thoughts, the easier it becomes. For ease of reference, we'll identify the inner critic, the inner perfectionist, and the inner pusher. This ought to help us label. Each one has slightly different style and feel in your body. For example, when you're acting as your best self, you may notice a lightness in your body, a sense of positivity, motivation, and optimism. But when your saboteur has been triggered, there may be a feeling of contraction or heaviness in your body, as well as a general sense of negativity and cynicism. Everyone has these voices to varying degrees. For some, it only comes out when under extreme pressure, and for others, the saboteur dominates their thinking. The more you're able to observe, the more you'll notice the subtle characteristics of each. Meet the perfectionist. This is the part of you that looks for perfection everywhere. It loves to compare and hold high standards. It will attain and drive you to success at all cost. You know you're listening to the perfectionist when you start feeling like you should be better than you are, should be there by now, in quotes. And you should be like someone else who clearly has it together. There's an overall sense of not measuring up and just not being good enough. Listen for the shoulds. Listening to this voice will wreak havoc on your confidence, making you want to give up since you'll never quite get it right anyways. Remember, your best self is accepting and understands that this is a journey of growth, not a competition to win. The perfectionist and the pusher work hand in hand. The perfectionist creates an ideal, and the pusher sets up the program, the regimen, and holds you accountable to it. This part of you makes long lists of things to do. It will nag, cajole, drive, push, and shove. And it's never satisfied and will keep you up late, urging you to do more and more. Listening to this voice will leave you in a state of overwhelm, exhaustion, and complete adrenal burnout. Remember, your best self is motivated by passion and purpose, not by a kicking jockey on your back. The inner critic may just be the nastiest of the gang. The things your inner critics say are grounds for a breakup or a fight if someone else said them to you. The inner critic criticizes you for all the things you did, thought, felt, or didn't do, think, or feel. Its job is to find fault. This inner critic takes upon itself the task of evaluating you with a fine-tooth comb. Needless to say, it always finds us falling short of expectations. It assesses us and reviews our behavior with the highest of expectations and remembers every negative thing you've ever done. The inner critic knows your weak spots, and when it's triggered, it attacks from all angles. So far, this all sounds pretty bad, but there are a few other things you should know about these voices. According to psychotherapist Rick Carson, although this voice is not likely to go away completely, with practice, we can manage it and become resilient against it. Also, its intentions aren't all bad. According to the founders of voice dialoguing therapy, Hal and Sidra Stone, your saboteur is actually trying to protect you from others' disapproval, hurt, or abandonment. The philosophy of the saboteur is better me than them. In other words, it's better for your own inner critic to whip you into conformity before you have to experience the hurt of someone else criticizing you. It has a remarkable underlying anxiety about life and what other people think, because again, its job is to protect you from others' judgments. If you can actually embrace this voice and work with it, you'll see the pusher is just out of balance willpower. The inner critic is out of balance quality control. And the inner perfectionist is out of balance shadow of your best self. So really, the goal is not to squash this voice, but to manage it like it's an outdated program running in the background. This process takes practice and creativity and may require some work in the coaching sessions. But here's an outline to at least get you started. As already mentioned, step 1 and 2 are to observe the thought and name it. You can call it the saboteur, the critic, or you can give it a name that's personal to your pesky voice. Next, it's important to realize that your thoughts don't control you. You control your thoughts. Seeing this, you get to play with options. What would I rather be thinking or doing right now? Question the saboteur. Is that really true? What's a new perspective? Perhaps you can dispute the thought by finding evidence against it, a time where you did succeed and you were good enough. Maybe you choose an affirmation against the saboteur or just simply let the whole thing go. Once you see there are multiple options and no real right answer, you can make a powerful choice to respond positively to the saboteur in a way that honors your goals and your best self rather than react in a way that's defeating. Okay, so there we have a quick overview of how to overcome obstacles, both external and internal. There's a lot there to digest, but you'll have an opportunity this week, as always, to process the information in your journal and to start integrating it with various practices of the week. And of course, we will go into much more detail and answer any questions in the coaching.